The value is justice. All consideration of government obligations must be grounded in mutually agreeable principles instead of abstract laws or proof. This must be a starting point of all ethics. It's one. Legitimate governments exist contingent on rational will of its citizens and private. Therefore, governments differ from individuals and must make coherent policy. As such, government action is predicated on the will of its citizens, independent of whether will aligns with the truth. Second, ethics based on abstract proofs fail to answer the question of why be moral, since even if I accept the logical validity of theory, that still doesn't explain why I ought to adopt it. Thus, only ethics based on justification give meaning to moral obligations. Therefore, all consideration of government obligations must be grounded in mutually agreeable principles, not abstract claims. This can only be reached behind the veil of ignorance, where people are unaware of their social standings, whereas one. If knowledge particulars rather than outcomes biased is biased by arbitrary contingencies, the original position to yield agreements that are just, the parties must be fairly situated to treat equally as moral persons. The arbitrariness of the world must be corrected for by adjusting the circumstances of the initial contractual situation. Thus, the standards consisting of the principles arrive behind the veil of ignorance. Prove the standard with three independent reasons. One, moral progress. Our conception of morality and justice are constantly advancing morals too. The advance of moral philosophy tends to a deeper understanding of structure of moral conceptions. This inquiry can proceed independently, like the development of logic, the foundation of mathematics. The conception of moral philosophy must be continually renewed. The strength of the formulation by noting the criticisms that are chained by and incorporating the advance of others. This provides a conclusive reason for the veil of ignorance over the other philosophical theories. This is a procedure to evaluate arguments rather than distinct arguments. This is uniquely vital to development of moral conception over time. Additionally, error act on the framework debate, because I will always result from more moral progress. If the framework debate is all messy, this is always a reason to prefer my framework. Second, partiality. All moral theory requires partiality, since justice aims to give each the due equally. Norms that apply only except to those in certain social positions cannot be the norms of justice. The veil uniquely demands that we choose principles that we deem acceptable from any social position, hence can be seen as impartial, and it doesn't matter that we are literally behind the veil. We adopt the thought experiment, it's more likely to arrive at truth and moral decisions that are just. Third, an agent cannot be free unless society leaves room for this freedom. Liberty must be positively enforced, which upheld. How can I be said to own myself if I may do nothing without the permission of others? Such merely formal freedom has no worth. This position of disadvantage in society. Once we recognize the importance of substance rather than merely formal freedom, our aim becomes to enable people to live lives who want to live. This commits us to ensuring access to essential prerequisites to any form of freedom worth having. If the provision of these goods requires us to provide self-ownership, so be it. The latter has no value in the absence of the former. Moreover, any actor which acts on behalf of society cannot favor person A's freedom over person B's. Thus, we must reconcile contradictions by weighing violations of freedom in particular circumstances. This means it's not enough to say that agents can do whatever they want. We have to limit some freedom preserved as a whole. I contend that the veil of ignorance mandates living wages. Contention one is poverty. Poverty is rapidly growing in the United States. Are we right? If you live in the United States, there's a good chance you're living in poverty or near poverty. Nearly 50 million Americans, 49.7 million, are living below the poverty line, with 80% of the entire U.S. population living near poverty or below it. That near poverty statistics is perhaps more startling than 50 million Americans living below the poverty line, because it translates to a full 80% of the population struggling with job assistance or near poverty or reliant on government assistance. Living wages are effective at reducing poverty. Advent 1 provides the result of a study. Overall, living wages may be successful in reducing poverty in the cities of adoption such legislation. The results reject the view that living wages increase urban poverty. And the literature overwhelmingly flows after poverty is reduced when no economic harm, Devenant's 1. Moreover, another finding the implication of living wage legislation reduces urban poverty was conferred. Finally, after Newmark and new evidence that poverty reduction may occur after living wage law, enacted due to other workers receiving wages as a result of the passage of living wage laws. And in a study of 19 California cities, Lester found that their passage of living wage statutes did not negatively affect employment growth. Prefer AF evidence over neg empirics about the minimum wage. The living and minimum wage are distinct policies that require individual empirical analysis. Adams 2. While traditional minimum wage legislation is nearly universal in coverage, living wages apply to a subset of firms. Only businesses under contract consider the provide services to the city, and firms receiving assistance receiving employees are subject to the requirements of these ordinances. Thus, theoretical predictions of the effects of the traditional minimum wage laws that exist, extensive empirical literature, can only serve as a rough guide to studying the effects of living wages. Their unique features require separate empirical examination. Contention 2 is health. Living wages lead to a direct improvement in public health. Latvia. With the adoption of living wage, we predict decreased premature death from all causes for adults, reduction in the number of days sick in bed, limitation of work days, days active living, and depressive symptoms were also predicted. A living wage increased the odds of completing high school. Further, the difference principle assures health protection. Coogan. The distribution of primary goods by the difference principle involves identifying least well-off members of society. In addition to fitting with purpose theory's whole, that healthcare coincides with the definition of primary goods, same with those things which every rational person is presumed to. And one, health coincides with the all-purpose nature of primary goods, and it's plausible that it would be identified as a primary good by individuals behind the veil of ignorance. Contention 3 is gender and racial discrimination. Low-wage work is especially prevalent for African Americans and women in need. African Americans are overrepresented in the following occupational job categories: janitors, guards, construction workers. The gender distribution of low-wage workers is simply uneven beyond what would be accepted. The chance were the only factor determining distribution. Women constitute 49% of the population, but they account for 83% of administrative support workers and 84% of personal services category. And wage increases are necessary to rectify disparity. Existing income inequalities are continuing to grow rapidly. Devenant's 2. Wage inequality has been rapidly increasing in the United States for the last 40 years. From 73 to 2007, the bottom 90% of wage distribution was much less fortunate. This group's average income over 34 years rose under 1%. Newly created positions, however, found in low-wage industries, which provides 49% of recent job growth. Contention 4 is unions. Living wages spark union membership, organization, and power of collective bargaining. Many labor unions also find the living wage idea attractive. Local unions have seen a living wage ordinance as a way to aid collective bargaining by raising living wage for an already organized sector as a tool to help organize non-union workers. With recent changes in leadership, the AFL-CIO living wage ordinances have also become part of the strategy to organize labor at the national level. In addition to collecting and disseminating information on living wage ordinances, the AFL-CIO has recently convened national meetings with CLCs to share collective successful coalition building. And unions are key to giving benefits to least well-off workers and reducing income inequality. Gordon writes, there's a demonstrable wage premium for union workers. In addition, this wage premium is even more pronounced for lesser skilled workers. It even spills over to benefit non-union workers. And unions not only raise the wage for it, but also lower the ceiling. Union bargaining power has been shown to moderate the compensation of executives and unionized firms. The New Deal granted workers basic collective bargaining rights over the next decade. Union membership grew dramatically, followed by an equally dramatic decline in income inequality. Under V1 is theory. First, drop the debate to deter for abuse, otherwise there's no reason to stop reading abusive arguments. Key to fairness can ensure that theory sets norms to activity. Second, convenient interpretations because reasonability affects what's reasonable, requiring arbitrary intervention for the judge to evaluate the theory debate. Third, fairness is the voter because debates and defended activity based off skill wins and losses. Fourth, no RBI because puts a chilling effect on theory. I wouldn't initiate theory against my opponent if he or she had a chance to win off the RBI, destroying me from a tool against abuse. Fifth, all the brackets of the affirmative case are either for gendered language or efficiency. I don't want to say anything else. Also, theory comes before all the pre-valid and post-valid arguments because it determines which you can and can't read in the first place. So any off-the theory logic precludes any cross-application. Take it out. The end of these stuff was exempt.
All right.
Can we just move this back? Because I'm going to need. Actually, I'll just use this for a desk.
Cool. Mind if I use your computer to use it?
Nope.
I have no idea what's wrong on this.
You go to the side and you hit the scrolling thing. Well, where is it? Oh, there it is.
Max.
That's how you scroll.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure you know to scroll.
Okay. Ready for six?
Yep.
Let's start with Rawls 1. What's the warrant there?
Sure. So the argument in Rawls 1 is that the only way to have a moral theory through justification is through the veil of ignorance, because it accounts for any sort of arbitrariness or any sort of arbitrary contingencies, and makes sure that any
arbitrary,
i.e., social status.
Why is that arbitrary?
Because those are the things decided by chance rather than choice in society. It accounts for any arbitrary factors within society. So instead of making personal decisions,
we should disregard living standards that would affect our disposition towards moral propositions.
Well, the veil takes into account those dispositions, but the analysis in the top of Rawls is why we can't use those dispositions to make decisions.
So let's say there's a utilitarian and a deontologist behind the veil. How do we get them to agree?
Well, the most mutually agreeable principle would probably be something like reducing inequality.
Where do you say that?
And most people are not utilitarian.
Where do you say that in AC?
I mean, that's what the arguments in the AC are justified.
So you read a meta-ethic of the veil of ignorance, but you don't have a normative theory to tell us how to decide.
I would say the veil is not a meta-ethic. All the AC is normative.
Cool.
You're a philosophy guy.
I'm saying, I do know it, and I know that there's no way to decide between different competing claims behind the veil under your framework, so how do we do that?
Okay, no.
So,
first of all, could you be nicer to me in this round? Can you chill off? All right.
I'm trying
You're a little mean in the last round, but what was your question?
My question was, how do we decide between competing views behind the veil? So let's say Rory's
well, you find the most mutually agreeable principle,
so
right? Most people are not deontologists or utilitarians, right?
So how do we determine which views are right?
Well, you adopt the thought experiment.
Okay, so I'm saying behind the veil. So let's say Rory's a utilitarian and he's behind the veil.
Behind the
veil,
people,
a deontologist and she's behind the veil, and they both want to do different things.
First of all,
how do we come
Rory,
to agreement?
if he was behind the veil, and Shania, if she were to be behind the veil, would not know that he or she was a respective utilitarian or deontologist. So that personal belief would not arbitrarily impact their decision.
But let's say that Rory wants to do X behind the veil and Shania wants to do Y. How do we decide which one is better?
This is getting ludicrous. Whichever one's more mutually agreeable.
Okay, how do we determine which things are more mutually agreeable?
Well, basically, what most aligns with our basic moral beliefs.
So
we have beliefs towards equality, beliefs towards we have basic fundamental beliefs towards equality, beliefs towards risk aversion.
So where do you read coherentism that says we should look to our natural intuitions?
That's what the arguments in the framework justify.
Where does it justify looking to what we already believe and not something normal?
That's what the Rawlsian framework justifies. It justifies why we ought to look behind the veil of ignorance and take our most basic beliefs.
I think we are at a misunderstanding because I'm saying once we were behind the veil, there's no way to determine which views we ought to. You say we need to look to mutual agreement. Yeah. I'm asking how do we determine which is mutually agreeable?
By which principles are most basic to our moral beliefs, i.e., we're all risk averse people.
So let's say I am like a psychopath. So that my natural inhibition is to kill others.
Well, you would not know that you were going to be a psychopath behind the veil of ignorance. And you would choose something probably to minimize your
So we can't access
chances of
any of
being
our
a psychopath.
intuitions behind the veil.
Well, I certainly hope that you don't think being a psychopath is something intuitive.
Okay. But I'm saying, if I'm a psychopath and I want to do X, you said that is bad
it's really
because I don't know
simple.
if I'm a
No, you just
psychopath.
weigh your intuitions, the most basic intuition behind the veil.
Okay,
Like,
let's
it's
say,
not that complicated.
let's say I want to seal prep in this round, but I also want to be honest. Those are two conflicting intuitions. How do I determine which one I like to?
I'd prefer if you were honest. And the
Besides,
veil would also say that you'd be honest, because it's the most mutually agreeable thing.
Cool.
We don't want people to be cheated.
that's good. Thanks.
Wait, can you pause real quick?
We don't have a.
Where's the third judge?
Let's flip ballots.
This is also not the first time this has happened.
He was
I've
so
seen it
in
earlier.
here.
Wait, who was it?
He was that guy with the Berkeley jacket.
He just like dipped?
Well,
So if it's a 1-1, we call him in and do the round again.
I think I know where he is.
But I mean, like, we don't have it, and he
What
just
do we-
did the. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna go get Lexi and I'm gonna solve it.
We have it.
Show us a recording of the round.
Yeah, we have a recording.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wait. That might work.
That's great. Yeah.
I guess we'll like replay it for the other judge.
That's crazy.
What? How does this happen? How did we start without the third judge?
Okay, but we just saw Jacob Rear on the app.
Free falling is something that can get advantage in the round. It's not prep during. I don't think I'm being unreasonable.
I just wow. Yeah, let's just like do you guys are you guys cool with him just like watching that? If it like sounds good, because I don't know.
Alright. 307 remaining.
Can I have my computer?
Sure.
So did Arkham.
I'm sorry, are you good?
What's the order?
It's going to be NC 1 off AC. Part 1 is a framing. Foucault explains how what we think of as truth is actually determined by power structures that erect a regime of truth to legitimate the existence of such structures. It is a structure we must overturn in order to make ethical decisions. There is a battle for the truth, not the ensemble of truth we discovered, but the ensemble of truth, the rules according to which the truth are false and separated. It is not a battle on behalf of truth, but a battle about the status of truth in a political place. Truth linked to a circular relation with a system of power which produces and sustains and effects of power and induces in what extent a regime of truth. The political and political problems with the end is ascertaining a new politics of truth, not a matter of emancipating truth from every system of profit, of detaching the truth from power from forms of hegemony within which it operates at the present time. And Foucault takes out all the one point states ought to do because all all boards ultimately value some regime of truth to validate their assumption. Moreover, we can never understand the nature of morality unless we first know who we have obligations to means interrogating power structures must come first because the power structures that frame whose lives count. Butler explains. We ask modern questions if we know how investors represent subjects. We ask this problem and assumes the problem is in order to range political acts representation can take place. We cannot possibly approach an answer if we do not understand the ontology of the subject of representation is that issue. Any inquiry into that ontology requires to consider another level which norm operates and limiting the norms of this idea of the human is whether the representation. We cannot ask them to answer the most commonly understood normative questions if we fail to understand the differential of power at work, which distinguishes between subjects who will be eligible for recognition and those who will not. Therefore, the valid criterion is recipient plus the power structures. Part 2 is the counterplan. A is the counterplan text. The government's automated wage is to be equal to the difference between the employer's current wage and the after proposed living wage that is distributed as a fraction of each paycheck. John Aziz writes. A basic income policy, individual work for whatever wage to secure negative income taxes to an individual's income possible immediately to third thresholds. The government makes the difference. Funds can be access to consolidating existing welfare programs, state pension schemes, and unemployment benefits by closing capital costs and raising taxes on corporate profits and high income earners. B is the contribution. 1. The department's uses since a person receiving the living wage will not be eligible for the NAT benefit, since only for people who live with an income below the living wage. 2nd, the counterplan can be through net benefits. C is the net benefits. 1 is colonialism. Living wage is outsourcing. Jacob writes. The minimum wage inhibits a free market. There's always some companies in the margin paying the minimum wage, and those some of them will go out of business with the labor costs increase. Most of these companies have probably already placed minimum wage workers or will do something by going out. So one of the two sources of cheap labor job asking overseas or hiring legal immigrants who don't have any choice in the wages and minimum earn. Outsourcing kills working class societies. Cole writes. These oppressive structures of mass unemployment, mass incarceration, massive advancement, each with factor directly feeding and accelerating other U.S. corporations have been outsourced for millions of the better paying job classes of the U.S. within the whole U.S. in urban neighborhoods, using virtually their entire economic manufacturing and industrial aspects, and in the neoliberal social practices in place, cutting jobs, training, programs, welfare, and public housing. Millions of Americans now exist in conditions that see the devastation of the Great Depression. Outsourcing is in global imperialism and domination. Smith, brackets, and original. A more fundamental definition emphasizes the separation of profit making from production. Profit making is increasing financial as imperialist countries indeed become more separate from production. Globalization and production played a major role in forcing open the doors of international financial integration. Outsourcing not only been given major support to the rate of profit of imperial countries, but also but increasingly favored alternative investing in new productivity, enhancing capacity, expanding technology, as well as capital flows from the low wage to the industrial countries, supported asset values of the industrial countries, and especially the U.S. Outsourcing is fueled financialization and colonialism is the oppressive power structure that constructs truth. Dei writes. The colonizers' power of the colonized the differential power position inherent in history and social politics. Colonizers and collided with the cycle of abuse and corruption micro levels. In fact, relations would emerge from the structure of power embedded in our everyday social relations, but it's key to theorizing critical perspective and interrogates the nature of asymmetrical power relations, as well as the rationality of power dominance. And colonial masks the disadvantaged colonized group by benefiting their process also violates community in a broader sense by having the severe form of oppression domination and controlling internally to all of the frameworks. 2nd is Marxism. Wages is the ultimate extension of capital since the workers have provided time and energy to capitalists for a price. The workers are merely a commodity to be bought by the corporation. The labor power is what they sell to capitalists, making humans fight and blood of commodity. The workers on securing meaningful goods they have been before capitalism has set suddenly left way the capitalist machine. Marx modified for gender. The putting of labor power system is actually the active expression of labor's own life. They sell to another person in order to secure the necessary means of their own life. They're elected to therefore it's a means of securing their own existence. Labor is the sacrifice of their own life for commodity. They have auctioned off another, cut the card there. The alternative to direct commodified thinking to adopt an unfledged deconstruction of class and worth further we need a class-based critique of this pedagogical space is a crucial stage in keeping socialism on the horizon. McLaren 04 writes. Humanity may be led itself to capitalist logic to pay collective success may pave the way for an alternative humanist party of seeing concentration of wealth in fewer hands, requires a vigorous class analysis, an unelected critique of capitalism and oppositional politics, radical education must continue to extrapolate what it means to use pedagogically, and more importantly politically requires a challenging crushable assumption to have come to concept core understanding of radical theory. Right there. The D is a post-grad solvency. 1 unemployment. The NFT decreases unemployment. Humphreys 01 right. The NFT supplements the wages of low-income givers, removing the need for the minimum wage, but is more likely that the competitive pressure of the labor market would agree would allow the wages to drop. There can be some adjustment leading to positive employment. Dawkins creeping the code is a trade-off between describing the minimum wage and providing a negative income tax. Echoes economists as an open letter to the federal government. The government decreased the minimum wage rate and introduced it in the tax credit scheme with the possible outcome of creating 900,000 jobs. 2nd is economic growth. Paramore writes. A basic income tax would help solve the problem of demand and greater drive in the economy is something called the economist aggregate in order to get people have money in their pockets to spend it on goods and services, which in turn allows people to business to because they're able to invest and hire more people. Guaranteed income tax would include demand, which will help the economy prosper. And NFT would decrease poverty. Humphreys 01 writes. A limited NFT around 40% lower than the current level ensures a eradication of poverty. Provision of NFT to low-income workers within the working space will support, although the greatest benefit of the poor from NFT is reduction of the size of poverty trap. The NFT allows for lower and more constant effective marginal tax rate. EMTR approaches 100% by reducing the rate. The NFT overcomes the current disincentive to work, allowing people to escape the poverty cycle. Cut the card there. Then, one off. A is an interpretation. If debaters use the Rawlsian or veil of ignorance framework, they must have a specific way and mechanism to determine which maxims we would agree upon behind the veil of ignorance. B is a violation. I asked mistakes, and he clarified that there's nothing in this AC that allows them to weigh and determine which principles we allow behind the veil of ignorance. C is the standards. 1 is Stratsky. There's no way to determine what would agree behind the veil of ignorance. There's literally no way to determine. He says when you look to moral intuition, that's not just about his AC, but also doesn't make any sense because it's all fallacy. There's no way to determine which maxim. You can just make up new arguments in one area. Oh, we wouldn't care about that, but only care about this. You can talk about the difference principles. You can talk about all these things in one area. No way to know what links to the framework. Which people might track because I have no way to adapt to this framework in whatever he just shipped out of the second resolvability. If we don't know what his framework would adopt, there's no way to determine what actions are good or morally bad or permissible or prohibited under his framework. You can never resolve around because you don't know what is often under his framework. Resolvability is an independent voter because it's your obligation to decide who's the better debater as a judge, but that presupposes the ability to resolve issues on the flow. Resolvability comes from fairness because it doesn't matter even if it's fair because it's unresolvable means it's essentially conflict because the judge has no idea how to resolve issues on the flow. The only consistent feature of your judge is to resolve issues on the flow. Then go to his AC framework. One, and then also cross-apply the voter analysis that he made in his speech. I don't know why I did that. He thought I wasn't running theory, but surprise. Okay, over to the AC framework. One, it's just beg the question what is good behind the people veiled ignorance because they only met ethical no normative claim that can get action is blind on the NC framework, so like, run collapse to my framework. Second, obviously oppression controls internally to his framework because the structural violence prevents our ability to engage society's greatest form of inclusion, and therefore the greatest thing we can avoid behind the veil. Third, after I use a justice strive toward equality and ignore this and repression by allowing by focusing on principles like equality, which instead adopt non-ideal theories that recognize current injustices. Then turns. Higher minimum wage reduces net job growth, Mirror in West 13, right? We examine how the wage flow impacts employment by directly assessing employment dynamics and working search match model. Minimum wage is too closely impacts reducing demand for new workers. We examine 3 separate data sets to find that the results are similar qualitative and quantitative. Minimum wage reduces net job growth. Any supply effects do not overcome negative side effects and high labor costs. For my evidence for net job growth, better than focus on total job number of jobs after wage increase. Mirror in West 13, right? Today, nearly all studies minimum wage and employment have focused on how wage affects the employment level, effects on margin to be employment dynamics and actual creation, destruction, job transition to new employment setting may slow, but such may take time for any effect to be registered. Unemployment is the root cause of poverty. UN 8 writes, unemployment acts as the core of poverty for the poverty. Labor is only asset that used to improve well-being. The creation of employment is essential for poverty reduction. Contribution of growth process reduction promise poverty reduction not depend on the rate of economic growth, but also on the poor able to respond to labor. Therefore, indeed.
Okay. Everyone good for CX? Status of the counterplan?
Unconditional.
Status of the alternative you read beneath the counterplan?
Unconditional.
Okay. So let's talk about the Marx argument. What does Marx think is bad?
Setting wages and commodifying your labor.
Is that the only thing that Marx would think is capitalist? And by the way, you agree that capitalism is oppressive, or that's the second contention of your NC, right?
I'm saying commodifying people is bad.
So are jobs bad?
I mean, the whole thesis of the NC Marxism objection says that by setting wages, we commodify your labor power into something that can be sold.
So it seems that we both still have wages, right?
That right, but I'm not saying it's about how much you do. I'm saying regardless of how much you do or how much you earn.
I guess my real question is, I'm confused how you read econ terms and then cap bad, but we'll get to that.
It's not just generic cap bad, right? So capitalism doesn't say economy bad, right? Capitalism says, I'm saying commodification of people into labor power, and saying that you are a dollar value. That is the origin of my.
Okay. So what's the alternative advocacy?
We reject capital. Let me scroll up to make clear. The alternative is to reject or commodify thinking and to adopt an unflinching deconstruction of class and worth. Further, we need a class-based critique of
wouldn't an unflinching deconstruction of class and worth say that all forms of labor is bad and that all forms of capitalism are bad? Tell me if I'm wrong.
I mean, you're welcome to make those arguments in your next speech.
Okay. So what is the link into the critique for the app?
So I'm saying you said wages, right? Wages are bad because wages say you are worth this much, however much you do.
Well, hold on. The counterplan also sets a wage. It says you are worth this much for what you're not making, right?
No.
For a living.
Your wages don't care about the worth of an individual, right?
But the counterplan does.
My counterplan says, regardless of how much you're working, regardless of how much you're worth, we set a basic threshold for how much you should be, under which you are no longer going to be paid that much.
Whoa. The counterplan says, no matter how much you're worth this minimal.
No matter how much you work, right? It's not about
Doesn't the app just say that? That you get a living wage minimally?
Right. So
what's the distinction?
So I'm saying, because people can be making under the minimum wage, I'm saying, in my world, there's no minimum wage, but per se, your living wage, I'm saying. So you're not yours is relying on how much people work, right? Unemployed people who aren't only doing hourly jobs.
Colonialism? Why does the living wage cause colonialism?
Okay, so it says that living wage leads to outsourcing. Outsourcing is bad because that's domination of the West.
Wait, hold on. Jacob says that the minimum wage inhibits the free market. Doesn't Marx really not like the free market?
It's not about the free market, right?
It's not about the free market.
Okay. So you can read ad hominem reasonable what Marx would have preferred. I'm not talking about the free market in this sense. I'm saying that because of free market regulations that we have, these companies will outsource jobs.
Got it. What comes first? The alternative and the critique, or the policy advocacy? The representations arguments in the K, i.e. rejecting capitalism and adopting classist ideology, or the basic income policy?
You're welcome to make weighing arguments if you want.
Okay. Can I see everything you're writing before I start?
Yeah.
Alright. Ready? Starting now. Is the counterplay actually competitive?
I mean, yes. I mean, I would argue that it is.
Got it.
Like, I mean, it's like functionally competitive. Like, what do you mean by textually competitive?
I'm just wondering.
Like, I don't know what your definition of textual competition is, but I'm saying that the term doesn't make sense. It's functionally incompatible. Is that alright?
Yep. Alright, 20 seconds.
Can I put your back?
Yeah.
Do you mind, Mike?
Yeah. The order is counterinterpretation to his shell. Do you have the written out interpretation or do you accept it?
Accept it.
Alright, counterinterpretation to his shell, 2 new theory shells, then starting on the critique on the Marx evidence, the alternative, and then the outsourcing to SF.
Okay.
Speak clear when you go from
Yeah,
flow to
flow to flow.
No problem.
Okay, so counterinterpret 2 new shells.
Yeah. Alright, are we good to go?
Wait, sorry.
Alright. Sorry. Counterinterpretation, I don't need to clarify what people choose behind the veil of ignorance if I tell my opponent explicitly what links in cross-examination, what kind of impacts return the affirmative case, tell him what people choose to clarify what people choose behind the veil of ignorance in cross-examination, and concede the negative framework. This means I solve for all abuse in this world. I can never go for my framework if I never tell him what it means, so I always solve for the views because they'll never make any voting on the framework. Then go to his kids, they'll go to his interpretation office, strategy, and first turn 8. That's better strategy. It's my framework. incoherent. That's the reason why he cannot face rejected. His second turn, he means that the judge will have more credence for his arguments, but I don't explain what links in. That means I'm being shady. Judge will be more likely to believe me. Also means that judge won't believe arguments I say that don't link in because I made it unclear in the first place. There's no chance of that. Also in the world, my interpretation, I tell him explicit impacts that link in. I tell him that poverty links in the affirmative favor, unemployment links in the affirmative favor, so he'll always know what links in. He'll have stable ground. Then goes resolvability argument. This is just a strategy argument. You don't know what resolve. You don't know what links in. But as far as I give him explicit links, i.e. this impact of unemployment or poverty would link to the affirmative case. He can resolve it. Also, empirically 9 people have read Rawls statements without being clear before, but they have to resolve it. First interpretation. Interpretation, the negative must only advocate either a single policy action or in my mindset shift. They should not advocate both. Clarify the negative only have one stable action B. It's violation. He advocates for a mindset shift. The second part of his affirmative case, he also advocates for the counter text for PC. Does not mean my interpretation. My interpretation says he gives one serious standard to strategy. He has multiple worlds he can go for in the next speech. I have to overcome both of them. He can say that the impacts of one way. Also, the worlds are very distinct. One's about representation, the other about policy implementation. So my turn is linked to multiple areas. Training strategies, key friends. I've learned to argue position against my opponent. Axel strategy on the advocacy level. Also, ways strategy on the framework level because if I don't know what he's defending, it's impossible for me to generate office in the round. So when B is object fiat, his interpretation is really bad for me because encouraged B is have perfect worlds. If the negative had multiple links to your advocacy, they can just fiat that we solve world hunger. We have really good steps to your advocacy. The negative should only have to be able to defend one thing, otherwise you have a perfect world that solves for all. You have to manage in the meantime, it's possible for the win. The world is interpretation. Second interpretation, critique alternatives must only be specific solved with policy actions implemented by a single actor. They cannot be mindset shifts or rejection or advocate for a rejection or commodified thinking. B is a violation. Is critique alternative. The second part of this case advocates for a rejection but commodified thinking. It's not a policy action. Clarifying the world of C is the standard. The standard is critical engagement. He kills critical engagement first. Mindset shifts are extremely vague. I don't know how to engage a critique, which means I don't know which to respond, which terms I can answer the K within the first way, which means he can de-link out of it. Second, even if I do know how the alternative is implemented by a variety of people, he can shift out of it because his vital alternative is inherently very vague. I'll cross that the transferring out words also extend the fact that fairness is voted basic effectiveness of skill wins will also extend that theory comes before the critique. He can seize this out of the affirmative case and extend it from me last week. Don't let him make new arguments. Remember, it determines what you can get read. Off the K. This was very silly. He reads Cat bad, then reads a bunch of arguments why he leads to economic growth. So first turn, I lead away from capitalism, I'm more towards socialism. I'm saying people are worth more even if they form a commodification. I'm saying that they're not worth a dirt cheap. Second turn, he links in, he literally says people will be paid their ration, then they'll be paid whatever they're missing from the aft wage. He is doing the exact same thing as the affirmative. Third turn, I will concede that I lead to less overall employment. He causes an employment increase. This means more people have wage in the world of negative, which means he has a higher scope of people linking into the critique, a higher scope of people being paid wage. He says that wages are always bad because they commodify people. Don't let him link out of the next week. Initially, any reason why he links into the K will always outweigh the affirmative link. So when A, he knows his bad in the first week, he's performed really contradictory. Remember, his framework says you need to interrogate and press power structures. He knows he's being impressed with the first week, which means his press will always outweigh. So when B leads to a ruse of solving the world, because he tries to show that he's solving it through a policy, but if he links into critique, that's the reason why his policy will never work. Also, extend the Warren Spitzer Crow and Butler analysis. You need to interrogate power structures if we're going to understand anything. This means the representation arguments after critique will always come first because they're talking about the power structures that inform this debate in the first place. The colonialism is imposed beyond impact, but this is talking about the representation of the Marxist ideology, so we'll always outweigh and then go to the permutation, implement the aft and the alternative net beneficial because you need to have the aft in the first place to have the criticism of the curve. Second turn, radical rejection eliminates possibility of change and retrenches suppression blogs. Ideological current share of false empowerment accompanied by loss of public engagement to lead capacity of individuals or large groups work for social change in space. Advocated by broad citizens we can fill by authority and delays the rate of political politics might further rationalize the existing power structure outweighs someone A on probability. We've seen right now people in comfortable health to the status quo reject things like Marxism, also on severity because even if you adopt the aft policy, with policy people will be more likely to colonialists because more radical elites will be powerfully from in the neg world. So it turns its impacts.
I had 207. Starting now. Fairness implications on the policy alts?
Oh yeah, I read internal links to fairness, and I conceded the extensions of the fairness stuff in the SDE made. Yeah, there are internal links to fairness that were wrong.
Alright. The order is going to be my first shell, then the shells in order he ran them, and then, okay. Sounds good? Extending interpretation of reader roles and framing must have explicit text in the essay about how you weigh between how you determine which principles you adopt under the veil of ignorance. So his counterintuitive doesn't mean he says one CX check and I'll just tell him what he says, but one CX check is bad because they kill my son. I don't know what it is. Going into my answer, I have no idea what I do. I have to wait until CX means my entire 6 minutes of prepping, getting my answer prepping means they're all gone because all gone because he can just ship whatever he wants. So second, it creates bad norms because he can just ship whatever he wants, whatever he had in the ACO, he can say, oh, this doesn't link, and whatever he wants in CX means he can say he does no stable advocacy in ACO, just shifting advocacy and also kills his critical engagement because he can't you can just shift out your advocacy whatever you want. That means there's no objection to have good advocacy. You can just shift out whatever you want. And then he says, if he concedes the negative framework, this doesn't make any sense because I didn't know you were going to see the negative framework going to the NC. I read this series, I'll expect you to go for your framework. Just because you conceded a framework doesn't mean that it's not abusive in the first place. So just because you conceded it, don't let him get away with it not being abusive. I went into NC not knowing he's going to be reading this. If he told me he's going to keep the framework, then I wouldn't have run the show, but he didn't tell me he's going to keep his framework. Then, extending strategy argument, which he's able to determine what links to the next page. He says my framework is incoherent and that he says like it's more creative for like responsive arguments, but he makes that's a huge blunder because just because something is bad does not make it not unfair, right? So if I read 7 bad nibs, that doesn't make them unfair just because you can answer them well, the judge would have less credence for them. They're still unfair, they still create a 7-to-1 structural skew, even if it's bad, that doesn't mean that those arguments aren't unfair in the first place. And then he says, I gave you explicit links of like what links my framework, so he said like unemployment and poverty. Guess what? Rawls also care about other things. So he's just giving examples of what links, not a comprehensive understanding of what things link. So he's saying that these examples link, that's like saying a utilitarian would care about nuclear war, that also care about solving poverty and unemployment. So there's no way to know what exactly links. Giving examples is not sufficient. Don't let me get away with that. Then he says that like his only argument to resolvability is that like others have resolved this. That doesn't matter. You shouldn't take the credence from other judges. I'm saying you as a judge determine is this resolvable? No. So extended resolvability argument says that if he's able to determine if there's no way to determine what is prohibited, obligatory, or permissible under a framework, then you have no idea how to evaluate offense under that. So I mean, so the round is unresolved because you literally have no way to evaluate offense. Even if it's taking out his framework, it still means that this framework was abusive, and because he read this in his first speech, even if it's taking out, that still makes it abusive. So extended resolvability comes first. Whoops, he dropped that. So resolvability comes first because even no matter how fair the round is, it's not, if it's unresolvable, that means it's just a point for the end, which is the fairness doesn't matter because you have to be able to resolve issues. And so even if they're unfair, your ability to resolve them is a prerequisite because that is your constituent feature judge to pick the better evader, which is impossible to do if you can't resolve the round. So resolvability comes first. He's not doing enough work in resolvability, so that outweighs all his other impacts. He conceded reasons why resolvability is the biggest voter. So don't let him try to make new links into AR. Go to his second shell. He violates the second shell. He's saying that I can only have one stable advocacy yet, but he has multiple stable advocacies. Both of his shells are pre-fiat adopted the judge makes. You as a judge adopt the interpretations as pre-fiat advocacies. That advocacy is the reason to reject me, which means that he violates his own shell. That's terminal defense on the shell. But regardless, A is in counter-interpretation. Debaters may read multiple advocacies if only one of them is post-fiat and only one of them is pre-fiat. That solves all of these. He's saying multiple worlds. That's because it's different. You can just weigh between different worlds, right? So his first argument says multiple worlds, but you do the exact same thing. But second, multiple worlds doesn't matter. You can still just weigh on the different worlds. You can give reasons why one outweighs the other. But third, I consider the fact I extended forward him that theory comes before any pre-fiat, which means that there's already weighing in place. That was just a backup. That was just an even if argument. So other layers, so as long as I'm doing weighing, I mean, this will also be from the shell. So that's that. And then he says that different terms can link. He says that he could away, but I can extend reasons why that outweighs. And then he says that different terms can link to different things. Well, guess what? Also, different terms can link to like the different theory shells. Different terms link, but also regardless, different terms still link for me. So he can turn my different worlds in different ways, which means that I'm still susceptible to the same strategy. There's no strategy there. And then he says outweighs a framework if you can't link, but turn framework outweighs because that determines what matters in the round. So, for example, so even if there's like his ability to make turns, that makes the question terms under what? So turns have to be under a framework to determine if the turns matter. So the framework outweighs. Then he says object object feed out is bad, but the perm, so one, the perm solves as long as it's perming. He just reasons why the perm is more beneficial. That's what he tried to do. So that doesn't matter. And second, object, I'm not adopting object feed. I'm saying you as a judge endorse. It's not an object feed. I'm not saying we endorse a world without capitalism. I'm saying the judge takes one step against capitalism. It's not object feed. This doesn't matter. Then go to a second shell. Only policy alts. A is interpretation. Debaters may read alternatives of critical arguments that are not policy alts. So he says critical engagement. That doesn't make sense. So only his first argument is that it's vague. This isn't vague. I'm saying you as a judge adopt this. But even if it is vague, that's not a reason to drop it. The vagueness is just he can just read that as an answer to it. It's not vague. It's very clear what links. I had a text of the all, which means that he's very clear what links. He can just make. He's trying to make. He's like able to make turns to K, which means that he's able to engage. This is not vague. And then he says he can engage, but there's clearly reasons why he can engage. People engage in Ks all the time. There's no reason why he can engage. The K is not vague. It says that we reject that you as a judge reject capitalism. We in this room reject capitalism. He can read reasons why that's bad, as he did with his turns, because he had prepped out turns for that means that this solves all the reasons. And then he says, I can shift out of it, I'm not shifting out of it, I made it unconditional to process, and even if I can shift out of it, you can just read reasons why I shifted out of it, why, like, I shouldn't be punished for potential abuse in the future. That doesn't make any sense. But resolvability comes first, that gets rid of that. Then, big mistake in seeing the outsourcing stuff. So extend Jacob, which is that living wages is outsourcing because companies are constantly looking for lower profits. Extend Cole, which is like kills working class in societies, and extend causes global domination. Extend AE, which says that colonialism is the biggest impact on it because that frames a different truth that outweighs the cap stuff. He shouldn't have considered weighing in the anti, which is that colonialism outweighs cap because it creates new truth. There's no reason why cap is bad. I read no impacts to cap. There's low impact to the K. I did that on purpose. I had that he adds weight analysis. It means that all the terms go away because there's a 100% conceded string link about why the colonialism comes first. So none of his impact turns link. Then, on the wages stuff, so he says that people are worth more than like they're dirt cheap at the turn. So I'm saying people aren't worth their labor. I'm saying people are worth no matter what. So even if people are unemployed, even if people can't get a job, I'm saying they're worth this much. I'm not saying they're worth what their labor is. I'm saying as a human you're worth, which turns that back. Then he's saying like I'm doing the same thing, but I clearly explain why the time. He says that more people can have wages in my world. So this isn't just a straight up cap K. I'm saying this is a Marxism K about wages. So he can read. He should have read reasons why having wages is bad because I believe that none of us said that this has no impact. Having wages isn't bad. I'm saying I don't. The second I don't even have wages in my world. I'm saying we get paid this regardless of your wages. So I'm saying this we get paid this as a human being. Not because of your labor, which means that's turning that back. I'm saying I'm creating rules of solving. That's not offense. I'm not creating rules of solving. Simply winning is other turns do that. And then he's trying to perm the K. Doesn't make sense. Plot twist. I'm defending a policy option. My policy option is also solved for the K, which means that see the political turns go away. So I'm not doing that. He says I'm more radical. So all the other turns are preceded on the see the political. But even if winning see the political, that only takes place on cap. The colonialism stuff isn't see the political. So that's on the capitalism. That's on the colonialism stuff because colonialism that way is negate. You can vote on resolvability. Vote on the K if you want. Doesn't matter.
How is the round irresolvable? If you ask, does unemployment link to the framework? And I would say, yes, it does link to the framework.
Okay, so saying that one thing links to the framework is like saying nuclear war is the only thing that has offense under detail.
No, there are not an infinite amount of turns on this topic. You can very clearly ask to stop things.
Okay, so you're saying I should have to ask every single piece of offense that I can possibly read during CX. So that makes it unresolvable because one, those are just still examples of some things that could link to your framework, and two, that kills my strategies of CX.
Okay. It's going to be
specific warrants why you have to have a comprehensive analysis of what links to your framework.
The counter interpretation his shell, then the first theory shell I read, the critique arguments, I'll probably start on logs if I get there. Everyone good to go?
Give me 1 second.
Sorry, what was it? The shell that I ran?
The counter interpretation your shell, then the argument that, then the first theory shell I read, then probably starting on the logs card on the critique. Everyone good to go? There's no world with the counter-interpretation. It's also the extending counter-interpretation of the 3 planes. First, I'll clarify how people decide behind the veil during the cross-examination. Second, I'll tell you explicitly the impacts linked to the framework. Third, I will concede the negative framework. He never explains it. Furthermore, I'm only defending this interpretation of the world where I do concede the anti-framework. Even if he didn't know where I'm going to do it, it will only happen if I do it, which means it always will solve for the abuse. He never does an adequate analysis. He makes a very deliberate response, but don't let him kick out of this. Also, he can literally ask me in cross-examination what impacts linked to it. He tries to say he'll always shift in. He'll steal his prep time, but you always use prep time anyway to ask him what impact will link to a framework to clarify the function of a framework to build your strategy for the which is not stealing prep time. It's also not shifty if I tell him explicitly your unemployment impacts will link. Also, this solves explicitly resolvability. There are not an infinite amount of impacts on this topic. There are only a very small finite amount of things. Noah's turn file probably is not infinite. He can literally ask, does poverty link to the framework? Does unemployment link to the framework? Furthermore, he also has explicit links coming out of the contention. So Very clear, he can literally ask explicit things, doesn't link to the framer, and I'll tell him how. It doesn't take his prep time, steal his prep time, because you do that anyway. But even if you don't buy that, he's conceded turns on, and then against his arguments that examples aren't enough, the fact that there are not a finite amount of turns solves for this, and he can just ask for the examples of what he's going to go for. It's clear the counter-interp solves for the abuse. Then quickly go to a strat skew argument. The biggest problem is that he concedes the turn on strat skew that's channel resolve building, except the turn on strat skew that it's empirically that it make it easier for him to respond to my framework. My framework is incoherent. This makes the round is really resolvable because of the fact that you'll just never look to the affirmative framework if this contradiction is ever present. This means, as far as he's conceded this takes on resolvability argument, also extends resolvability is empirically denied. This is at least huge mitigation resolvability, so you should always err affirmative as far as my counter-interpretation solves. Go to the first interpretation. Extending interpretation negative can only have one advocacy. They can only advocate for either a mindset shift or a policy action. Extend the violation. Advocacy growth. I don't violate. First, my interpretation only says the negative is actually a possibility for the violation. Second, I'm talking about advocacy growth. I'm not talking about theoretical interpretations about your post-fiat or pre-fiat or pre-fiat advocacies outside of theory interpretation. Extend the standard object fiat. He undercuts the object fiat. He is doing a terrible job on it. He says that the permutation solves. He has no one way permutation solves. It's still object fiat. Look, he's still linked to this warranted object fiat. He can fiat anything fiat. Literally a perfect world. Even if I can make permutations, the negative world is insane in the world of his interpretation. Then he says he's not making object fiat, but he still, even if it's not complete object fiat, he still gets moved towards a better world. He's huge quantity gravity towards him. Then extend the Strasbourg analysis. He says that you can weigh afterwards, which doesn't matter if you can weigh between worlds because I still don't know what world is he going to go for. It was unclear for the NC which world came first, so he can always go for the world and undercover the NR. Then he said that theory comes first, and I did the same thing, but I already answered this. Even if theory comes first, I should say reason. That's not a reason why you can read abusive arguments. Why he's not being abusive in the first place. Then he said that I make turns to think, but even if I can make turns to think, that's not a reason why I can't shit out of it. Strategy also links to resolvability for you. You don't know what world he's going to go for. That's the reason why it's irresolvable. You don't know how to compare between worlds and where he doesn't prioritize them. Also extend the fact that all abuse on the advocacy level outweighs abuse on the framework. Well, this was conceded. This is the fact that I can never generate offense in the first place if he's being abusive on the advocacy. This was a weighing argument. He says you need the framework to know which arguments matter in the first place, but you can't even make a turn if you don't know the advocacy. This means I come before resolvability because before you can look at resolvability, this was a conceded weighing argument. You have to know what the advocacy is in the first place before you can write your ballot.
You're right.